Well, Anna, what the hell are they in a policy retreat for if Congress has done everything they need to do for 4 years? They could just hang out.
Morning, I'm Anna Palmer.
And I'm Jake Sherman.
And welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punchbowl News. It's Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. Let's get in the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, welcome to open season on Trump's tariffs. Number two, the latest on DHS funding. And number three, Dems are furious over the Department of Justice's failed indictment effort. All right, Jake, let's get to it. We are leading Punchbowl News AM with a look at how not only was this a big loss for Speaker Mike Johnson, but also President Donald Trump, with 3 Republicans going against the grain here. And now there's going to be an ability for members of Congress to bring up policies and bills as it relates to Trump's tariffs.
Yeah, well, let me preface it with this. I'm very tired, Anna. I am extraordinarily tired. This was a late night in the house last night. Let's just start from the top.
I'm going to bring the energy for
Yeah.
you. Just, when you need to tee off, let me know. I'll pick it back up for you.
Coffee is a man's best friend this morning. Okay, let's start by saying this. The House had a vote on a typical rule to allow bills to the floor like they do almost every week. But in that rule was a provision that the White House insisted upon, which would block privileged resolutions to disapprove of Trump's tariff regime. They've done this before, and a bunch of members have said to the leadership, we're done with this. We're not going to vote for this again because we disagree with the president's tariff regime. And the leadership kind of gave a signal that after the last time they did this, and that resolution, that blockade of tariff resolutions ended in January, that they wouldn't do this again. And they did it again. They did it again under pressure from the administration. The Trump administration wanted this done. They don't want votes on the floor disagreeing with Trump's tariffs.
Because they know that Republicans are going to disagree with Trump's policies on tariffs, and it's going to show a divided Republican
And it's
Party.
completely cosmetic, Anna, for a few reasons. Number one, Trump, if a resolution of this nature got through Congress, Trump would veto it. His veto would be upheld on Capitol Hill. It would be. I mean, could I say that? Definitely no, because I'm not a fortune teller or God. I'm neither of those things. But I am. I do think they would be upheld on Capitol Hill. There's going to be a lot of these things. And it's starting today. Greg Meeks has one disapproving of tariffs with Canada. And a more typical White House might see this as an opportunity for members to show some independence from the White House, right? And just say, maybe this will be good for members to show some distance with a president that is not popular everywhere and a policy that's not popular everywhere, but that's not how it was seen. Now, the administration pushed this. I'll say this again. The Trump White House pushed this and basically put it on Republican leadership to get this done. I don't wholly blame the leadership here because I was talking to them all day yesterday and the White House, and the Republican leadership knew all along they probably couldn't get this through. And it was Don Bacon of Nebraska, Kevin Kiley of California, and Thomas Massey of Kentucky who voted against this in a majority with a 1-vote cushion. That ain't going to work, Anna. It ain't going to work. And so what does this mean? It means that, listen, let's talk about a few things. Mike Johnson, this is a loss for Johnson. No other way of putting it. I'm not blaming Johnson wholly on this, but Johnson has tied himself to Trump. He has no choice. And so when Trump loses, Johnson loses. Do you agree with me there? I hope so, because we wrote it in the newsletter.
I do agree with you. I think you make a good point, though. Johnson was put in a bad position, right? The numbers are the numbers. They've got a very slim majority. It was clear. It wasn't like Thomas Massey and Kevin Kiley and Don Bacon weren't signaling where they were on this, right? It wasn't like,
we had it in Tuesday morning's edition.
That they lost it. Right. I'm just saying. So, I mean, in that case, right, the leadership only has so many, ability to turn people on votes, and then they rely on this White House. If this is going to be a big priority for them, the White House Legislative Affairs team kicks into gear. And, I've been saying this, but we've been waiting and kind of watching as we've started to see some Republicans distance themselves from this administration going into what is going to be a tough election cycle. It is not surprising to me. But yes, a loss for Johnson. And I think also just the continued willingness of this leadership team to bring to the floor bills that are potentially going to lose and sometimes do.
I'll tell you what, though, why is nobody telling the administration, and maybe someone did, but someone needs to tell the administration forcefully that they're not going to win this vote. and they're wasting time and political capital. That's what I don't get. Where is somebody, whether it's, I don't know who it would be, saying, listen, I understand you don't want division on tariffs. Tariffs are really difficult. They're taxes. Republicans typically don't believe in taxes. We cannot get this through the House. It's going to be a waste of time, and it's going to be embarrassment, Mr. President, to you to have this fail on the House floor. Now, the leadership had this vote scheduled for yesterday at 1:30. They didn't do this vote until 8:30. They gave themselves 7 hours to try to turn people, which was not welcome by me personally, and Max Cohen and Ali Mutnick.
Your objections are noted here in the
But Anna,
podcast.
the company did treat us all to dinner, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
It was a very fancy dinner. It was Chopped for me and Allie, and Chipotle for Max. So we got a gourmet meal for all of us.
The least we can do. So,
and I will say 2 other things here. Democrats will use this as a cudgel, and will use this they will put up votes, and if for people who vote with the president, they will say, so-and-so member X is voting to keep these tariffs, which are making prices go higher. If there are smart Republicans, they might vote with the Democrats. You know, the Democrats, I want to say also, they can't overdo this, right? The more they do this, the less of a sting it will have, Anna, right? So they can't overdo this. What else you got on this? You have any other thoughts?
yeah, I mean, listen, I think the other things that's important here is, and I think it's kind of stunning, right? We are, what do we say, 9 months from the election yesterday, and you have Trump going on Fox Business Network saying the quiet part are allowed, that like they're not going to get a reconciliation bill. He said, you know, we've gotten everything passed we need for 4 years. So, you know, I think when you look at that, it's like, what is the agenda? What are House Republicans going to be doing here for the next 9 months? I mean, what does Johnson and his lieutenants have to give? What are the carrots that they have to give to say, hey, like, stick with us on some of these votes that maybe you're not with us on, but we're going to do an ag bill. We're going to do permitting reform. We're going to do some of these things. But, you know, in my mind, not only is the frustration going to get higher on Capitol Hill, but I also think, you know, if you're a House Republican, it's like, you know, what are we doing here?
Agreed. They have a highway bill to do. They have a farm bill to do. Remember the whole, we're going to focus on healthcare thing. We're going to get a healthcare bill done. Where are we on that? I mean, there are a lot of people who were told by the leadership and by the White House that they will do a health care bill. Now Trump says we've got everything we need for 4 years. That was a stunning statement, and it would be helpful if the leadership kind of just said, well, we're going to either do a reconciliation bill or we're not. I don't know, I don't know what their thought is here. But anyway, this is going to be something that we're going to be watching over the next. We're going to have to watch the floor even more closely because people could call these up. They need a 15-day layover from introduction to forcing a vote. There's going to be a bunch of people over the next couple of days who are going to go to the floor saying they want to vote on this tariff, they want to vote on that tariff, all of these things. So it's very interesting.
And I think you're right. Democrats, how they play it, and then I think also how this plays in the Senate. Right? This is one chamber, but there are a lot of senators
who are tariff skeptics. Yeah.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who are tariff skeptical.
By the way, like, you can't underestimate how this clogs up the House floor. I mean, last night, they kind of laid out the process for dealing with these tariffs. I'm just bringing it up on my screen here. To have a tariff debate is obviously an hour equally divided of debate and then a vote. If they play their cards right, Democrats, they could do one of these a week, and they will have a lot of votes to use against members of Congress. Republican members of Congress on this tariff regime.
All right, Jake, let's move on to the number 2 story of the morning. Our headline, DHS funding deal still far off. The Senate is barreling toward Friday's funding deadline for the Department of Homeland Security, but the two sides remain far apart on reforms to ICE. Congress leaving town on Friday with the recess next week. And as much as there's been optimism and certainly Thune has tried to project that there could be some deal making here, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of Senate magic happening right now.
I don't see it at this point. I mean, the theory is there's going to be 8 Democrats or 6 Democrats or whatever it takes. I'm too tired to figure it out. Who it's 8, but who are going to want to keep DHS open. It doesn't seem to me at this point that's going to, it doesn't seem terribly likely. The House leadership last night in the Rules Committee gave themselves same-day authority, which allows them to bring up a rule and vote on a measure on the same day. dealing with appropriations. So they're giving themselves what's called martial law effectively in Congress. It's not really, it's not that serious, but there are a lot of people in the Senate who are saying they're not going to do a CR. I mean, a lot of people are taking that position. Hakeem Jeffries yesterday said he's a hard no a CR. The Senate needs consent, 100 senators to agree to speed up a CR at this point. A DHS deal does not seem like a big agreement on reforming ICE and CBP and that kind of stuff. Doesn't seem like it's close from what I could tell. And everyone's kind of digging in, and it's Wednesday, and the deadline is Friday.
Right. And worth noting, Jake, that Senate Republicans are going to spend much of today in a private policy retreat. So while this crisis of DHS funding hanging out there, that means that the Senate won't vote until the afternoon at the earliest. And it's going to be interesting to see how Republicans come out of that, right? They're going to be talking with cabinet officials and doing sessions on messaging. Do they stick to where they are on DHS? Is there any kind of shifting or not? Is there a hardening of position? I think that's something that we're going to be watching.
Well, Anna, what the hell are they in a policy retreat for if Congress has done everything they need to do for 4 years? They could just hang out. But that's not how a lot of members of Congress feel. But yes, this is mostly a Senate Democrat White House production. The Democratic caucus in the White House are trying to work out this deal, but man, does it seem far off.
All right, let's go to the number 3 story of the morning from Punchbowl News Defense. We've got a great item here this morning about how the 6 targeted House and Senate Democrats are blasting the Trump administration after a federal grand jury failed to indict them over their participation in the quote-unquote illegal orders video, a move they hailed as a victory for the Constitution and the First Amendment. Some very fiery language coming out from the Democrats who the Trump administration was going after. And a feeling of vindication by Democrats here, right?
Yeah. Yes, there's some very fiery language. Jason Crow, if these expletives think they're going to intimidate us and threaten and bully me in the silence, and they're going to go after political opponents and get us to back down, they have another thing coming. This is a family podcast, so we're not going to say what he said here. But yeah, listen, the Trump administration tried to get an indictment for the members of Congress who put out that video telling the military that they should ignore unlawful orders. They didn't get that indictment, but this is a big deal. The administration trying to indict 6 members of Congress for that video failed, and it's stunning. And it's a huge escalation by the Trump administration, and it didn't work. But this is something we're going to be hearing a lot about over the next couple of days.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. If you like the Daily Punch, share it on social media. Tell your friends. It's the best way to find out about us. And of course, you can go to punchbowl.news and go deeper on all these issues and more and sign up for our free morning newsletter. Have a great day and stay safe, everybody.